traffic is just starting, but I've been listening to the birds for about a half an hour, maybe more. I've had this strange experience lately of waking up at about 2 in the morning. And so I do a bit of work, and then as the sky begins to lighten, I get to hear the birds singing. It reminds me of when I lived in India, and we used to get up very early in the morning there to do meditation and yoga. And you know what? I do think that 4 in the morning is a really good time for many things. When I qualified professionally in the UK. And I used to get up at 4 in the morning and study for 3 hours before I would get ready to go to work. And I found it was a really great time of the day for my mental clarity. And I think that a lot of writers like to get up early in the morning, but for some reason I can't get myself up to do my own writing. I think there's an issue there. Some friends and I were speaking about it, and particularly for women, it's very difficult to do things that only impact on ourselves, that are only going to benefit ourselves. If it's going to benefit somebody else, it's very easy to make the time and prioritize it, but when it benefits only oneself, sometimes it can be difficult. We've been now under a state of emergency in British Columbia for a month. And only in the last 2 days have I started to feel normal again. So I have been actually sick with something. So as much as everybody else has been going through a lot of boredom and lack of, I don't know, scheduling and inability to cope with endless time on their hands, I've been not having to deal with that. And I kind of wish I had another month to be able to deal with that time. But what I have done is, in the last few days, waking up at 2 or sometimes 4 if I'm lucky in the morning, I get to watch the sunrise. And I think about, a friend of mine said recently that of all the tragedies are the young people that are dying. Because the elderly, they've had a good life, and those who are my age, well, we've had a pretty full life. And as much as I don't want to think that my time is up and, you know, I can go, it's kind of true. If I had to, I would have lived a really full life. Have I done everything that I wanted to do? No. But you know, I don't know if they're really that important, or if it's my ego that wants to do these things. But I want to do them, and so they have to become a priority now. I was a young woman when my mother died, and when she died, it made me realize that you need to live large, and you need to really do what you want to do now, because you don't know that tomorrow is promised. So I'm grateful that I learned that lesson early in life. And so, yeah, I have had a really full life, but there's still things I want to do. And I think about another lesson I learned in New York. There's a fellow that I'm aware of who really, I think, wants to travel the world, but he has a fear of flying. It's not really a fear of flying, actually. It's a fear of dying. And so the only way to get over those kinds of fears is to get over your fear of dying. And I remember one time I was really afraid on a flight. And I did the whole cognitive behavioral therapy thing. And I thought to myself, well, what is the worst that can happen? And I thought, well, I could die. And even before I thought of how likely that was, which was not very likely, I thought, and so what? I think if you're a person of faith, it's really quite simple to get over your fear of death. And that is to always be, right with God or the divine or whatever you want to call it every day. And when faced with fear, to keep the mind on the divine. If you're not a person of faith, I think the lesson that I learned from my mother is very helpful, and that is to live your life fully every day, to say yes to life. I think that if you live your life fully every day and you don't regret what you've done in a day, and you pursue the things that really matter to you and that you want to do in life, as if your time is limited, because it is. And also, I guess, if you are right with the people in your life every day, then yeah, sure, we don't want to go. But if we can say we've lived a good life, it's a little bit more of a comfort. So I'm really grateful for the lessons of my mother and for the lessons that I learned in New York City in a way that was not from the religion of my childhood, that felt a little bit like indoctrination or something I had never questioned. In a different way, I learned not to be afraid of death because I was right with God. The third thing for which I'm grateful today is that I developed for myself the motto to do it now. And so when I was lying in bed this morning listening to the birds, and I saw that the sky was relatively clear, I thought, why don't I get up and watch the sunrise and have a little chat with you? My moment of connection is right now, both with you and watching the sky change and being grateful that it is the start of yet another day. I don't know what's going to happen today. I hope it will be good things, and some of them will probably not be good things. I have bills to pay and work to do, and yet I have this moment, witnessing this sunrise with you. And that too is my joy. And if there is any service to be done today, perhaps it is that I have shared with you a few things that have helped me. Just have a look at this, will you? I don't know if you can see it, but behind all of these trees, there are mountains. For what are you most grateful today?